You already have an AI assistant. You just did not know it was there. Right now. Inside Google Docs, inside Sheets, inside Slides, inside Drive. Google just finished embedding Gemini directly into Workspace. And most people opened their laptop this week and had no idea. This is not a new app to download. This is not a subscription to buy. This is not something only tech people can use. It is sitting there, waiting. Inside tools you already open every single day. And the people who figure this out first are about to work in a completely different way than everyone else. Let me show you exactly what happened and why it matters for your life right now. Google has been building toward this for a long time, but this week it became real in a way it never was before. Gemini is now fully operational inside Google Workspace. That means Docs, Sheets, Slides, and Drive. All of it. Here's what that actually looks like in practice. You open a Google Doc, you have a blank page, you describe what you need. Gemini writes it, not a rough draft you have to fix for an hour, a structured, intelligent starting point. In seconds, you open Google Sheets, you have raw numbers from your small business, or your household budget, or a client project. You describe what you want to understand. Gemini analyzes it, builds the formula, highlights patterns. You did not need to know a single formula. This matters more than people realize. Think about who uses Google tools, not just tech workers, not just startups, teachers building lesson plans, parents running household budgets, small business owners tracking sales, students writing papers, freelancers sending proposals, nonprofit teams managing volunteers, billions of people on every continent using Google every single day. And now every single one of them has Gemini available, without paying extra, without switching platforms, without learning a new system. This is the part that does not get enough attention. The most powerful AI upgrade of the year did not require a new tool. It arrived inside the one you already had. Let me give you a few real examples. Imagine you run a small cleaning business. Every week you spend 2 hours writing quotes, invoices, and client updates. With Gemini inside Docs, you describe the job. It drafts the document. You review it and send it. That 2 hours becomes 20 minutes every week. That is roughly 80 hours a year, back in your life. Now imagine you are a teacher. You need to create a quiz for 30 students on a chapter they just read. You open Google Docs, you describe the topic and the difficulty level. Gemini generates the quiz, formatted, ready to print or share. What used to take 40 minutes takes 3. Or maybe you are just someone trying to understand their finances better. You have a spreadsheet of income and expenses. You open Google Sheets. You ask Gemini to explain what the numbers show. It tells you where you are overspending, where you have room to save. What changed compared to last month? No accountant, no finance degree, just a question typed into a tool you already had. If you are finding this useful, consider subscribing for more practical AI insights every week. Now here is where it gets genuinely interesting. Most people think of AI as something you go to separately. You open ChatGPT in a tab, you ask a question, you copy the answer, you paste it somewhere else. That friction matters more than it sounds. Because most people just skip it. They stay in their comfort zone. They do the task the old, slow way. What Google just did removes that friction completely. Gemini is not in another tab. It is inside the document you are already working on, inside the spreadsheet you are already staring at, inside the presentation you are already building. That is a fundamentally different experience, and the research on this is consistent. People use tools dramatically more when those tools live where they already work. This is not a small upgrade. This is a behavior change for hundreds of millions of people. Let me talk about who benefits most from this. If you run any kind of small business, this is significant. Writing, reporting, planning, formatting, client communications. These tasks eat hours. Gemini handles all of them inside the tools you already pay for with a free Google account. If you are a student, this changes how you learn and prepare, not to cheat, but to organize, to outline, to understand, to research faster. AI tutoring inside the documents where you already study. If you are a professional worried about staying competitive, this is the answer. Your coworker who figures this out before you will produce twice as much, not because they work harder, because they work with an AI assistant built into their daily tools. If you are a parent managing a household, budgets, schedules, school communications, meal planning, event organization, Gemini and Docs and Sheets handles the admin layer so you can focus on the moments that actually matter. And this ties into something bigger happening right now. Anthropic filed for an IPO this week. That is major news on its own. But what it signals is even more important. AI is not a novelty anymore. It is not a side project for tech companies. It is infrastructure. It is utility. It is the electricity layer of modern work. The the companies going public, the tools being embedded in existing software, the integrations happening this week inside Google, Microsoft, and others. These are the signs that the window of learning advantage is narrowing. Right now, there is still a gap between people using AI naturally and people who have not started. That gap creates real opportunity for productivity, for income, for career advancement, for business efficiency. But that gap will not stay open forever. The people who learn to use Gemini inside Workspace today are building a muscle, a reflex, a habit. In 12 months, that reflex will be standard. The question is whether you are building it now or catching up then. So here is how you actually start today. Open any Google Doc. In the left sidebar, look for the Gemini icon. If you do not see it yet, it is rolling out through June. Check your Google account settings. Start with something simple. Ask it to draft an email you have been putting off. Ask it to summarize a long document. Ask it to create a basic outline for something you are working on. The first time you use it successfully, something shifts. You stop seeing it as a technology thing. You start seeing it as a time thing. And time is the one resource none of us can buy more of. In Google Sheets, try this. Open any spreadsheet you have. Click the Gemini icon. Ask it one question about your data, even something simple. What is the highest number in column B? What does this data suggest? You will immediately feel the possibility of what this can do. In Google Slides, ask Gemini to turn a set of bullet points into a full slide structure. Watch it create layout suggestions, speaker notes, and visual hierarchy. These are not magic tricks. These are hours, real hours, returned to you every single week. And the beautiful part is this. You do not need to become a prompt engineer. You do not need to take a course. You do not need to understand how large language models work. You just need to describe what you need in plain language, the way you would explain it to a smart colleague. That is the real breakthrough. Not the technology itself, but how natural it is becoming to use. Google figured out that the best AI tool is the one already inside your workflow, not one that requires a new habit to form. That insight is what this week's news actually means. AI is genuinely getting easier, not just more powerful, easier. The people paying attention right now are building advantages that will be hard to close later. Start with what you already have open. That is all it takes. Chapter 0 o'clock hook 045. What Google just quietly did 215, what Gemini can do inside your tools. 4:30 real examples for real people. 6:15 who benefits most from this. 7:45 how to start using it today. 9 o'clock final thoughts.